at sports. Okay? Then we have others who are so good at reading and speaking English. Are we together? The problem here is that if someone is not so good at English, some of us think that maybe they will be failures. Not so. Yet they are good at something else. So you have to reflect, understand your strengths, weaknesses, and interests. If you are interested in baking, do you have people who are interested in baking? Yes. You have to know that maybe my calling is for me to be a baker. Some of us get pressure from our parents. You could be interested in baking, but the parent wants you to be a doctor. Have you ever faced that? So it is important for you to know your calling. So when I was young like you, I was always interested in sharing knowledge, which is teaching, basically in simple terms. But I didn't want to be a teacher. But then, from a young age, I knew I was called to be a what? A teacher. So after my secondary, I received a full scholarship from Bugema University to do education. But then, guess what? I turned down the scholarship. I said, no, I don't want to be a what? A teacher. So I went at Kampala University and I did a degree in industrial art and design. But towards the end of my first year, I was around 21. I was so broke, I was so miserable, and I received an offer from a certain institute to teach graphic designing. Are we together? Then I went and I started teaching. You remember, I tried to run away from my calling, but then the calling kept coming back to me. So I taught graphic designing. I was too good at teaching. After 1 year, at the age of 22, they made me the school head of the Department of Industrial Art and Design in that institute. And I was heading people who were even my parents. Then after that, of course, I went on and did all those things until when I started this company called Funland Club. So if you understand your calling right now, you won't waste a lot of time, okay? So I don't want people here to step away from the school, then you go get a degree in maybe accounts and stuff like that, only to find out that every day when you go to work, you feel miserable. You feel like you're wasting time. Are we together? So have you understood what understanding your calling is? So also, it has exploration. You have to explore new things. So in this setup, the school teaches us sciences. They teach you history, all those things. They are submitting you to different things so that you can explore different options, okay? But on top of what the school gives you, be able to explore other things. Try to go do some sports. Try to go, maybe try doing some fashion and design. Try etc. Maybe your calling is out there and it is only waiting for you to come and try it. But number 3 says, we have to look at our passion, the things that you're interested in. Okay? Are we together? Now, so let us look at the advantages of knowing your calling. First, it gives you a clear purpose and direction. Now, we've seen young people like you who go on to do some bad things. Some even go on to take up their life and do all those things which are not good. The reason for that is they lack purpose. Okay? They are like, even if I live for another 10 years, there's nothing I'm going to contribute. If you know your calling, you will have a clear direction. Perhaps if you're called to be a president, let me see those who would like to be presidents of this nation. Good. So if you're called to be a president, okay, your thoughts will be tuned to the future and be like, I have to be there. I have to reach there. So your life has a clear direction. Okay? Passion and motivation. When you know your calling, you're always motivated to do it. We have people here who love to be doctors from a young age. So you always be motivated to love sciences, biography, and all those things. So in everything you do, you always be motivated because you're doing something that you're passionate about. Then next, you'll be authentic. You'll be what? Authentic. This means, you see, people who are not authentic, those are copycats. You know copycats? Those people who copy the other person. They see that my neighbor started a shop, and out of the conversation, this person is making some money. And they'll be like, let me also create a shop. Those are called copycats. But if you know your calling, you'll be different and you'll be authentic. So, life will be meaningful if you understand your calling. Okay? Do it fast. And also, you'll be confident. Just imagine how confident you'll be if perhaps your calling is in sports. Maybe you're supposed to be a netballer and you know that. And then you're talking to young people, or you're talking to your peers, or even older people about netballing. You'll be so confident because you're talking about something that you love. And also, you'll be able to persevere. You know, we are living in a world where things are hard. But if you understand your calling, you'll be able to persevere. So, I ask you today to understand your calling. And we have a simple exercise here. You're going to take a few seconds, not minutes. We have no time. Take a few seconds. Write down 3 things you love doing and the things that you're good at. Start writing. Start writing. Get busy. Write down 3 things you love doing and 3 things that you're good at. You might be good at talking. Are we together? That is your calling. Some people are busy talking. Maybe that is your calling. Perhaps you might start a business out of talking, a podcast. You know, a TV show called Uncut Karakata. Perhaps those people are interested in talking. So anything can be a calling. Don't be like, my calling is pretty bad. So after that, you're going to see how those things you wrote down can point you towards what you're supposed to be, towards your calling. Now, we are done with your calling. Have you learned something? Raise up your hand if you've learned something. Good. We have no time, so I'm going to be pretty fast. Now, let us tackle the second aspect of innovation. Okay. I want to tell you a story. This story is from 1890 of a French doctor who was working in the theater. He was working in the hospital where these ladies could give, maybe they could bring to life new creatures, maternity. So this doctor was always frustrated of the fact that 1 out of 5 babies could die. Okay? Just imagine every 5 women who give birth, 1 child dies. So, as he was frustrated, he took a walk and went in the zoo. So when he went in the zoo, he looked at all these animals, the leopards, the giraffes, and all those animals. Then he saw something. He saw an incubator for the first time. When this gentleman saw this incubator, he was like, so this incubator, it was for chicken, okay? So eggs and all those things were preserved and then temperature regulated and could bring about chicken alive. So he was like, what if we use this same technique to our babies? Because he found out that temperature regulation was the number one cause of all those deaths. So he had this idea and he said, what if we can replicate this idea and use it for human beings, for babies? So he went back, he got one of his friends who was a carpenter. They created a prototype. Do you know what a prototype is? Prototype is like a sample, okay? If I say I want to manufacture a car, they might tell me, please first show us a sample. So that is a prototype. Something that looks like a finished product. So they created their first prototype out of wood. But then they found out that this incubator, which was created out of wood, preserved babies by 50%. Okay? It preserved babies by 50%. So they were like, what if we can add more fashion, do something sophisticated? Maybe it could increase from 50 to 80, 90, etc. So the government of France funded them, and then they came up with a finished product. When it was tested, it regulated these deaths by 90%. Are we together? But the story continues. So in France, Paris, all hospitals had to have an incubator. And then in the USA, since it was working in France, they also said all hospitals have to have a what? An incubator for babies. So it was successful, but there was a problem. The problem was this incubator was so expensive. It was costing 40K USD. How much is that? How much is 40,000 US dollars? That is a lot, and this is in 1890s. So that would be around $400,000. Okay, so in these countries like USA, France, it was working, but then in other countries like Africa, hospitals couldn't afford this incubator. So one day, the World Health Organization donated 8 incubators to Indonesia. Okay? And then they were so excited because they could now preserve some of their babies. But after 4 years, all these incubators were not working. The number one reason that's why they were not working is because these incubators were so sophisticated, so complicated, to one extent that local doctors, local technicians could not handle and maintain, just in case they broke down. So all 8 were not working. So a certain gentleman called Timothy came and observed. When he observed, he realized in Indonesia there was no electricity by then. There was nothing. There were no laptops, no computers, etc. But people had cars. Okay? People used to own cars. They could maintain, and just in case a car broke down, these people could fix their cars. So this gentleman was like, what if? Do you remember what if from the first French doctor? That what if we can create an incubator for babies? Also this gentleman was like, what if we create an incubator out of spare parts of a car? Because he realized these people could fix their cars. Okay? So what if we created an incubator out of body parts of a car? So he went forward and created a prototype. So with this prototype, guys, are we together? Are we together? So with this prototype, remember the incubator has two main components, the warmth and air regulation. So the car lights provided the warmth, okay? And then the dashboard fan filtered this air. So it was successful and it also proved to work. So in these growing countries, they started having access to cheap and incubators that could be easily fixed. Now, back to our presentation. We are saying that innovation is all about creating new or improved ideas, products, services, processes that add value to the society. So you could be here and be like, how can I implement innovation? So when everybody is looking at this in this direction, start to ask yourself, what if? Are we together? All innovators that we've seen have this one question, what if? So if maybe your friend is saying, I want to be this and this and this and this, ask yourself, what if I could be different? What if I could do this in a different way? What if? What if? So in the other aspect, innovation is all about turning an idea into a solution that adds value from a customer's perspective. So we see that the local people parts of a car. So customers should be able to find value in everything that you're doing. That is innovation. It is also identifying the unmet needs. It's also about recognizing gaps in your area of passion and expertise. Remember, we started by understanding our calling. So when you know your calling, start to say, what if I could approach my calling in this way? If you are maybe good at reading, you could be like, what if I could create a platform where I could teach my fellow learners how to read? We have very many people who are struggling with reading, English, etc. And they are so scared to go to the teacher. Be like, I have this interest of reading. What if I could do something? So, like I said in the beginning, we have different clubs in schools. And one of the clubs we have is the Innovation Club. And also we hope maybe to initiate the Innovation Club of Katikamu. But we have some learners who create some cool ideas. I will share with you one idea or two. So, we have a student who saw some of his friends, and these friends are not so much interested in writing notes, copying notes. Okay? Do you have people who are not interested in copying notes here? Cool. But then, for him, he was interested in copying notes. He could do some research. They had some quotes and all those things. So what he did, he created a website where he could get his notes, update these notes at his platform, organized, very organized. And you know, people who don't want to copy notes, they don't love notes until it is about exam time. Not so? So, he could charge 5,000 shillings a term for every learner who wanted to access his notes from his website. Are we together? So for him, he saw that his passion was in being organized in class. So he created this website where he could update, let's say, biography. The notes are clear from the real instructor, from the teacher, and then could charge 5,000. So let's say 200 students use his platform. Innovation is like that. You build upon your calling, your passion, and then be like, what if I could be able to do this and this and this? Now, I want us to look at some of the innovators you might know or you might not know. So this gentleman is regarded as the grandfather of innovation. Okay? He is responsible for over 1,000 new products, including the bulb. Are we together? This gentleman is, which you see here, all this slide that we are enjoying, he innovated 1,000 products. And growing up, this gentleman was a normal child like you, but he was curious. He was what? Curious. And the teachers came and advised the parent that, you know what? I think your kid is too curious to be taught. It is better if you can homeschool your kid. So it was heartbreaking, but then, yeah, he homeschooled, and at the age of 12, he created his first innovation, his first business. So I won't go into the details because we have no time, but he's called Thomas Edison. You can go research about Thomas Edison, read about his story. We have this gentleman called Steve Jobs. Let me see those who know Steve Jobs. Yes, a few years back, this gentleman died, passed away in 2011. But he innovated Apple. Okay? He dropped out of university due to some reasons. But then he was interested in innovating. So he met someone called Steve Wozniak, and then they came up with a new computer. They came up with some technology. They created Apple. They started in the computer system. In 2007, they introduced an iPhone, which has changed everything right now. This gentleman died when his net worth, do you understand when I say net worth? His net worth was $10 billion. Okay? By the time he died due to cancer. But he was young when he died. So, we see that innovation is not so hard. It's all about saying something and then ask yourself, what if? What if? Write that question. What if? Now let us look at, you might say characteristics. We are mentioning some of these things that you have, then just know that you're going to be a successful person. Remember, our title is Pathways to Success. The first is passion. All innovators and successful people told them to do. Maybe their friends are doing, or maybe people they look at on social media. They focus on things that they are interested in doing. Yes, so more. We have some of you who are not so much interested in learning more, okay? If they introduce a new program, let's say they are going to teach you how to build a mobile app. You'll be like, I think this is not meant for me. But innovators are always curious. They are like, yes, I want to try this. Yes, how does this work? So, all innovators are curious. Okay, yes, they are open-minded. They are always ready to learn something new. Okay? All innovators are ready to learn something new. They are creative. In everyday work, innovators are creative. So if everybody is maybe doing something in a certain way, innovators will find a creative way to achieve their results. And also, innovators don't work alone. They collaborate. So they find people that they share some of these traits with, that they share the vision with, and they come together to do something. We talked about Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was not so good in programming and coding, but he found a friend who was good at that, and they were able to do something great. And innovators are patient. You see, this journey of innovation takes years. Some of you might be interested and think by the end of the term you'll be super rich, okay? But it takes time. So innovators are patient. They trust the process. And that is because they do things they are called to do. Now, we are done with innovation. Let me first see if I have more time. Okay. Let us talk about goals. Let's talk about what? Goals. So we've talked about our calling. We've talked about innovation. Now let's talk about goals. Now, you see, there's a saying that says, if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there. Are we together? If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know where you're going, someone will be like, please, can we go and play some soccer? You go. Then another person will be like, please, can we go to the canteen? You go. Before you reach the canteen, they will tell you, let us go for some conversations. You go. So it is important for you right now to have goals. Goals changed my personal life. Okay? So the process of starting to initiate this company, and I want to share with you some few tips for goal setting, your calling, or your purpose or vision. So goals, just also here we set goals and then we create actions that are going to lead us towards our goal. Now I'm trying to be fast to catch up with time. We have this formula called SMART. It is taught in entrepreneurship, I think also in what SMART goals are. So gentlemen, you're going to be a little bit faster, okay? Be faster. First, our goals should be specific, okay? You have to be so clear. When I was starting Funland Club, I was clear. I want to start a company that can share knowledge to young ones in a simplified way. That is something very clear. Some of you have goals that are vague. Do you know something that is vague? Something that is not clear. And you say, I want to have money. That is something that is not so clear. You could say, I want to have 20K by the end of this day. That is something that is very clear. M stands for measurable. You should be able to quantify your goal. That means you should be able to measure. Okay? If it is money, you could set a goal and be like 100K. So that when you achieve 60K, you know that there is still 40K to achieve. Okay? Should be achievable. Set something that is achievable. At this age, I don't expect you to say, I want to be a billionaire by next year. Are we together? That is something that is not achievable. Relevant. Your goal should align with your calling. Okay? Remember, we talked of ways. Your goal should align with your calling. Should be relevant, time-bound. Time-bound means you set a deadline. You could be like, by next year, by etc. So, when I used this technique of goals, it took me only 2 months because I was working with certain artist called Cindy. Do you know Cindy? I was working with that artist and I set goals. It took me 2 months to quit my job and then start a company. Okay? And then I was full-time in this company and this company was making profits. And I used this technique of goals. So basically, you set the goal, you make a plan to lead you towards the goal, You get to work, you stick to working, and then you reach your goal. Simple as that. So I'm sharing a lot of information with you because I'm not sure if I'll see you again, some of you, but I want you to understand these things. Now, we are done with goals. Second last, time management. This is important. I think our teachers educate us about time management. Not so? A lot, and a lot. So I'll tell you what. Research, listen closely. Research has shown us that by the time a person dies, I'm talking of natural death, they have spent 10 years. How long? 10 years on things that add no value to their life. So it goes from a second to a minute of wasting time to a day, to a week, month, up to 10 years. I don't want nobody here to make this research come true. So people waste a lot of their time. So time management is all about planning, controlling how much time is spent on various activities in order for you to achieve your goals. Are we together? You should be people who are good at time management. I'm going to give you 2 techniques for time management. The first technique is called what? Pomodoro. It's called what? It's a technique where you work for 25 minutes without ceasing. If it is revising your books, you revise for how many minutes? 25 minutes. Then you rest for 5 minutes. And then you do it again. Are we together? Work tirelessly for 25 minutes, rest for 5 minutes. Now, the last example on time management is called what? Eat the frog. I need you people to start eating frogs. You should start eating frogs. Now, let me explain. Of course, I don't mean going. If fishing is all about catching fish, I could say frogging. I'm not saying to go catch the frog and then you eat. Now, this technique, this technique says every day make a list of the top 5 things that you want to achieve. Are we together? And then these things, of course, should be leading you to either your goal or your calling. And you can always make provisional goals. You could be like, I want to be the best in the history class by the end of the term. That is a goal. So of the 5 things that you've set, the frog is the most important item on your list. Are we together? Always people tend to procrastinate the most important items. Are we together? So eating your frog means start with that ugliest task. Something that is hard for you to do. Start with that. So if you eat a frog, research shows that you end up the day without hunger. Are we together? You'll be satisfied throughout the day. You might do 10 things, but when perhaps these things are not so important, but you might do only one task, and it is as important as not working for the rest of the day. So, set the goals, manage your time by identifying the most important items. Proceeds. So let us look at the most common time thieves. Be fast. Yes, first list all of them. We shall talk one by one. Now, this is the most time thieves. First is procrastination. That is saying, I'll do this tomorrow. I'll revise at the end of the term. I will go to the fashion design DIT class next term. I will do ETC. Are we together? That thing keeps you stunted. Next is social media. I think someone came and talked about technology, right? I'm sure. But social media research shows that the more you are on social media, the more your IQ is lowered like this. Are we together? If you are someone who could solve problems really fast, you start scratching your head just because your IQ has been lowered. Then we have distractions. Some of these distractions could be yourself with your brain, your thoughts, and others could be your friends, your environment, your etc. So you should avoid distractions. Then we have perfectionism. People who want to be perfect. Okay? They spend a lot of time doing something just to be perfect. So that also steals our time. Then multitasking. Someone is talking while revising. At the end of the day, they've spent an entire prep doing nothing because they've not really understood what they've been reading. Also, the conversation was not meaningful. Are we together? So you should do one thing at a time. Allow me to stop here. If we get more, because I'm sure you're going in divine. If we get more time, we shall now start to talk about financial literacy. Okay? But we cannot discuss financial literacy before these four things. Are we together? So I was talking to Madam Victor. We want to initiate an innovation club here. And if you are interested, talk to Madam Victor. If we get around 50 plus students who are interested, we are going to initiate the innovation club. And what we do in the innovation club, we learn innovation with the aim of you becoming rich. So we have students who have been able to create simple ideas and people are actually paying for them. And then they manage all of these things while still in school. So if you are interested, if you have anything you're interested in, it could be sports, could be etc., you could join so that you don't waste and then you wait until when you're older to make some money. Okay? Thank you so much for giving me your time and